Hi there. Welcome to the OFM podcast. I'm your host, Peter Defty, and today we're going to try a little different format. And it's going to be an interesting format because today I have two people sharing the same camera and screen. They're a husband and wife, so yeah, and that is Scott and Abby Jenkins, or Abby Fleming Jenkins. So
yeah, Fleming sounds better than Jenkins. Not many people have that as a surname.
Yeah, but it's all good, right?
Yeah.
You're happily married to this guy named Scott, who's who's having quite a journey, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Peter, thank you so much for having us on the show as well. We really appreciate it. It's nice to come on with Abby and get her perspective on things as well, right? Because she's been all over the world crewing and pacing me at different races, so I thought it was really good to have that perspective.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to have, because sharing time with you guys at the aid stations and watching you race and having her talk is like, wow, we need to get the wife and the crew's perspective on what we're doing.
The real inside scoop.
I'm not sure Scott's going to be happy.
Yeah, because it was kind of like revealing to me, like, wow. Okay, this is a completely different perspective than just the athletes I'm working with saying stuff. So welcome on. Since you get to be the star, Abby's a star in her little way, but I get it. You guys don't have kids, correct? No
correct.
children.
No,
so,
we enjoy our holidays too much, and Scott spends all our money on races.
Right, and Scott gets to be the kid because you're kind of like wiping him up and cleaning him up. Pulling down. It's kind of, you know,
he's a lucky man, is what you're saying.
I might just leave you two to have a chat, I think, and just
you have this toddler that you clean up and get fed and all that, and he wanders off in the bush for a few hours, and then
sometimes I hope he stays in the bush, but somehow he manages to find his way back.
Yeah, and so it's really great. So, yeah, Scott, you're just coming off of the Arizona Monster 300, but this is something you've really dove into in the last couple of years. So tell us a little bit about y'all's history,
Sure.
and how you came to tackling these big events, and also some of the life changes you guys have made to accommodate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Peter. And again, thank you for having us on. So I've been ultra running, I guess you could say, for 15 years now. The very first event that I did was a 2,000-mile run across America from Boston in Massachusetts to Austin in Texas. So I did a marathon a day for 75 days. And whilst I was doing that, I was raising money for British Heart Foundation, Help the Heroes, which is a military charity from the UK. And what I quickly realized was actually the more crazy and wild the adventure, the more impact for good I could have by raising money for charity through donations when I do these kind of long distances and runs. I think, I realized that I couldn't use all of my vacation time to dedicate to, 2,000-mile runs, but actually over the years came to realize that obviously the world of 100-mile, 200-mile, and now 300-mile races existed. And to this day, I still do all my races for charity and support a great organization called Operation Smile, who provides surgical intervention for children with cleft lip, cleft palate, all around the world. So I've been supporting those guys as well for the last 10 years solely. And I think ultra running has taught me a lot about life and putting problems into perspective. And I just feel very fortunate to get to share these adventures with my long-suffering crew chief and wife, and also be very fortunate to be, supported by some great organizations, not least Vespa as well. So yeah.
You're being coached by another really superb Vespa OFM athlete, Jeff Brown.
Yes, sir. Yeah, absolutely. I've been working with Jeff since 2022. And again, Jeff is just so experienced and knows everything. He's like a professor of ultra running almost, he just knows everything that you need to know about, hundreds, 200s. And I credit, all my races over the last 3 years have been, impacted positively by Jeff. He's just such a great coach and such a positive guy to be around as well.
Yeah. He was the one that introduced you, told you to get on the Vespa, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that
I'd like to add that I did find out about Vespa before Jeff coached you, and Scott ignored me And then when Jeff mentioned it, he was like, yes, let's give it a go. I was like, well, we could have done this a little bit earlier, but you know.
Like all men, I listen to my wife intently, Peter, on a day-to-day basis, obviously. But she was right, always knows what's best for me.
I do, yeah.
Well, that's a good point, because, you know, when I was married, that was kind of a thing too, but, you know, what do I know? Yeah, so it's very typical. That adds a little humor to it, but yeah. So yeah, let's
Jeff introduced me to Vespa, Peter, and just to answer your question as well, like the way that it happened was very organically. So I hadn't trained with it. I was running Moab in 2023. Was it 23? Yeah, I've run Moab 3 times. It was 2023. I always suffered with races in the first day in being a little bit nauseous, maybe puking a couple of times. And I came into the Indian Creek aid station.
It wasn't a couple of times. You would be sick for the first 60 miles non-stop.
Yeah, like I wouldn't say it's non-stop for the whole race, but it was like, it would happen
in the first
always on the first like day for sure. And I came into the aid station, I was chatting to Jeff, and he's like, have you ever tried Vespa? And I was like, no, but you know, I'm willing to give anything a go at this point. And I tried it, and immediately I was like, wow, I really like it. But also like the positive impact it had on my running almost immediately was brilliant. I was like, I'm hooked. This is amazing. Keep giving me more.
Well, and let's let have Abby chime in too, because it's probably in your marriage too. So Abby, what do you think? Because I remember you at that, what was that aid station out in South Tucson?
The Gabe Zimmerman aid station.
Yeah, that's where we first met. You made a really interesting comment, which is what sparked me to do this format of the thing, because you said to me, he's so much easier to crew now.
So I've been crewing Scott a lot of the major races. So like Cocodona's on just now. We've done that. We've done all the destination trails, Badwater, and every race. We just couldn't figure out what it was. He was being sick all the time, as he said. But then that massively impacted his mood. So like he'd be, I've just wasted all these calories, and he was just so negative coming into the aid station. But when you're crewing and it's nighttime, you're also tired, right? You're also sleep deprived, and you're trying to be positive. But when you're trying to crew someone and they're being negative and they don't want to eat anything and they're like, I feel sick, and you're trying everything and you can't really do anything, it's quite draining. Like I'm competitive, and I'm competitive with Scott because I want him to do well. And I've always kind of said to him, I don't think you've reached your peak yet. And always kind of said, I think you can push harder. But he always says, well, I'm trying my hardest, but I can't keep food down. And we tried loads of stuff. We tried switching to purely liquid food, tried to cycle out different gels, tried to just put him on solid food, and nothing would work. But it really impacted his mindset in a lot of the races, because even if he overcame the sickness in the first day, he in his mind mentally was like, well, I've lost time, I wasn't moving as efficiently, and I'm already calorie deficit. And I think that because he's doing more often than not 200s, that then compounds on him mentally, and as he gets more tired, you can definitely see like a bit of a spiral. And I would say prior to him using Vespa, his mindset and his kind of energy level would be up and down. So his pace would be, he might go really fast for a section, then it would massively spike. The same with his mood. He might be really high at one aid station and you don't know what you're going to get the next. So very much like a Jekyll and Hyde, which as crew going into it. But a lot of the time when I'm crewing Scott, we're lucky enough that we have had friends that have kind of crewed with me. But a lot of the time I'm meeting someone for the first time and I'm trying to explain, I think he might come in like this, but I have no idea. But I'm also trying to form a bond and understand different people's strengths when Scott's not there, so we can work really efficiently as a team when he comes in the aid station. So when you compound all that, it is quite a challenge to be crewing someone when they can't kind of keep a consistent level of pace or mentalness or fuel.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point.
Right.
The mindset piece.
It's the mindset, the attitude. It kind of like transfers into everybody there, right? But the reason I wanted to have Abby is, as tiring as crewing is for 200s, you're usually the crew's mentally there when the runner comes in, but like the runner a lot of times doesn't remember Jack when they're in that glucose dependent state, right? If you're fat adapted, I see this all the time, like with Jeff or with Peter or with Chad. They come in, they know what they want, they know, and you probably noticed that with Scott. He knew what he needed to do.
Yes.
And got you in.
He was he had more mental clarity, whereas prior to going on the Vespa, he'd come into the station and be like, "What you want?" He's like, "I don't know." And I'm like, giving him options. He's like, "You're giving me too many options." Whereas now that he's been using it consistently, he's like, "Right, I need my food bag. Can you replenish my water? I want 2 salt caps." Like, it's just it's more like it's not a Formula 1 pit stop, because obviously it's ultra running, but it's much more like that from a crew perspective. Whereas before, you were trying to problem solve because he didn't have the mental clarity to kind of give you any of the direction or answer any of your questions to try and be efficient in the aid station.
Definitely. I can agree more.
Yeah, right. No, and I remember this. This reminds me of early on. This was my pre-Vespa days, but I was into the fat-adaptation at the time. I was pacing for my good friend Simon Michui from Tanzania one year at Western States, and it had gotten hot. And he'd allowed himself to get behind on his nutrition and hydration in the canyons. And even though he had water and he had gels, he started forgetting to take them. And he was just all over the map. And of course, I got him at Forest Hill and had to kind of spend cow loop getting him on track because he was so out of it, right?
We had the same experience with Scott at Badwater. So me and our friend Chris, we're only a 2-man crew at this point. And the first section, you've got to get to 50 miles from a certain point. But very early on in that race, Scott got behind on his nutrition. He was good on his fluids, but he was behind on his nutrition because he couldn't eat in the heat. And we got to, what was it, Panamint Springs or further than that? Panamint Springs. And he was white. I remember Fezzi saying he's really white. And he's like, I feel sick. And we had to take a decent amount of time, probably 20, 30 minutes, just to try and cool him down, try and get him to get some calories in, which massively put him under pressure because he had to get to this aggressive time point at 50 miles because he'd started in the last wave. But because we'd taken time out and he wasn't moving as efficiently, it was right up against it whether or not he'd make it past the 50-mile mark, which was never in our plan based on his pacing and what we thought he would do. And I purely put that down to he was behind on his nutrition, and it really cost us in that race. It probably was a
combination of nutrition and electrolytes, because people can take the fluids, but if in that kind of situation, the amount of sodium you need, until you're aware of that, it's scary just how much sodium you'll go through.
I need a sweaty, salty sweater is what Jeff calls it.
I'm a salty sweater for sure. So like I secrete like per liter of water. So 2 500 ml flasks, I'll lose 1200 mgs of sodium. Yeah. So I need to put all that back in. And to put that into context for Arizona Monster, like I was running with 2 800 ml flasks up front. So I was having to dump 1600 milligrams of sodium into one of my electrolyte bottles and then water on the other side. And then, tip Jeff Brown in top tip, but sip from one, sip from the other. That way you keep your balance and you can get your hydration right. And then you're in a really good spot with the fuel. And one thing, I think we chatted about it, Peter, briefly at one of the aid stations at the Arizona Monster, was that actually I really like being able to carry a Vespa or 2 or 3 with me on, depending on length of section, because at some point during that section, I'm going to crack open the Vespa. Stays relatively cool inside the pack as well, which is good. And it just feels like you're having another little drink of something that's not water. It's not electrolyte mix. And I really like it.
Yeah, I know. It's really great. So you guys have you both seen the shift that going to Vespa has, and you really haven't gone down the OFM rabbit hole.
No.
But
not yet.
Not fully yet. But I know I will soon with the help of you, Jeff, and Abby for sure. And I think one of the great things is that when I go out and I pre-make all my bags. Again, Jeff's taught me how to do this. So pre-making my nutrition bags for every aid station. then putting in the Vespa, putting in the gels alongside it, putting in, you know, some plantain chips to give me enough for each section. And one of the things that I've come to realize is that, you know, I don't need to carry as much of anything else with me anymore because I can go lighter and faster. And again, that's an added benefit.
Yeah, no, it's really a game changer in that way. And I don't think, like for you, Scott, if you guys are eating a you know, good, healthy, whole foods diet, the changes for you aren't going to be that huge. Plus, you want to get, like, because you guys come from the UK, probably want to get, you know, things, vitamin D dialed in and a few other little things, but it's really going to be more about the timing of the carbohydrates, when to bring them in, when to reduce them, getting your supplementation on point, just dialing it in. And like, you know, some of the strategies that I developed over the years. Remember, I gave you that cocktail of stuff at the last.
I was just going to ask you, perhaps you could tell the listeners what was.
Well, you tell me what happened, because I gave you a bunch of stuff, and I remember you like, what the heck?
Well,
so I remember, before you go, I remember at the aid station, me and our friend Jake, who's cruised Scott a few times now, and Scott, typically, if we don't get his sleep right, which we haven't until this race, hallucinates quite badly. So although we thought we were on top of his sleep strategy, we were really worried that, you know, the last 16 miles were still going to be quite tough because of the terrain, etc. And we were really worried that we might not have nailed the sleep strategy. And I remember saying to you how anxious we were. And then you said, well, has he had concentrated vitamin D? Then I'm trying to remember the other one, the black tablet.
The ubiquinol.
Yes. And you were like, give him these to take, and they should be enough that even if he's not had enough sleep, it should be enough to tide him over without going into a hallucinogenic state. So I want to say thank you for giving us that, because I was really like unsure of like if we'd given him enough or not, right? Because we'd never got his sleep strategy right. And I don't know how it felt for you to take it.
I think that's a really good comment. And again, I'd just like to reiterate what Abby said. Thank you for giving me those supplements in the aid station, because, you know, unashamedly, I have made mistakes with my sleep strategy. Not because it's willful neglect, but just because, you know, you get caught up in a race sometimes and you get ahead of yourself and you don't do the right things when you get tired. But actually, like coming into the last aid station of the Monster, you know, I was pretty dehydrated. I'd run out of water 3 miles before the aid station, and the impact that you, Abby, Peter, and Jake had in that aid station to turn around was fantastic. Because honestly, like with the Vespa, with the supplements that you gave me, that was the best 16 miles or last section of any race I've ever run. And you've only got to look at like my splits on Strava. The penultimate mile, Peter, is a 10:29 minute mile. Like for me, was it mile 299
miles on you, because it was 300, almost 305 miles.
If it's not on Strava, it's not real. So please, anyone can go on Strava and check out 10:29 minute mile, which is just like, it blows my mind. And I've actually got a great video, and I am going to post it very shortly. And I will be tagging Vespa in it, because it's my way of saying thank you. Because if you look at this video of me running, it's my pacer. And you can see I'm like, there's no death shuffle. Like it's clearly like, yes, it's not Usain Bolt speed, but it's relatively fast considering it's like 299. So yeah, again, like that's testimony to how good my legs felt. Like they felt light, they didn't hurt at all. Like I commented before we came on air that actually when I finished the race, like the next day everyone said, oh, how you feeling? How are you? And I finished, and perhaps you can comment on this as well, I finished, you know, other races of lesser distance and been walking like John Wayne the next day. After this race, I was just, my legs are fine. The only thing that's really sore is my feet, which is unavoidable when you cover so much rocky terrain for 300 miles. Sore feet, legs were fine. And I find that absolutely astounding. Again, down to Vespa.
I think on the first time he tried the Vespa at Moab, me and my friend Ben were saying his pace was really consistent. Mm-hmm. And that was the first race that he used Vespa in it, as kind of Scott said earlier. But I noticed a marked difference as his pace just didn't seem to fluctuate as much when I was looking at the tracker, the estimated times he was going to be there. Previously, you could have swings every time you can update the tracker between 30 minutes to 2 hours. Whereas when we were using it in Moab, it was very consistent. The only time it wasn't consistent is when he got sleep deprived on the bike path. So that's when I said to Scott, I don't know if you felt it, but me and Ben definitely noticed a difference in your kind of consistency of pace throughout the full Moab 240 from the moment you started taking the Vespa. So that's when he was like, I'm going to really start trying to dial it in and do my long training runs on it. And I would genuinely say he's been much better. For me, he's much better to manage at the aid stations, but he's been much better consistency-wise as well, mood and pace, for sure. And I think probably it's the first race we've dialed in everything.
Yeah, I think it's the first time we've got everything spot on, which is crazy, really, when you think it's a 300-mile race. And one other thing that, you know, I just could not believe when I was doing the race as well, Peter, was that my previous best time for a 200-miler is like 77 hours. So I did Moab 240 in 77 hours back in 2021. Here, I hadn't really looked at my watch because me and Jeff had a very well thought out strategy and game plan for the race, and that was to be very not cautious but very reserved during the course of the first day, couple of days, not go out too hard, just really build our way into the race. I looked at mile 205 on my watch, and I'd run a PB for a 200-mile race in a 300-mile race. So I'd hit 69 hours for 205 miles, which is just blows my mind. I still can't get my head around that. It's 11 hours off my.
It basically says to me he's been slacking every other race, and he hasn't been putting in the work.
There's a new level of that, I would say.
And I know that last section before Casa Grande, was it, or Casablanca? That apparently that was like the worst section for everybody. I know Peter Mortimer was hallucinating and having trouble there, and then Andrea Moore went through it in the daytime, and she posted some stuff about just being like where you got dehydrated. It seems like that's where everybody really got hit hard, and then they just kind of death marched into Casablanca and, you know, did triage back out.
In a sadistic way, I actually really enjoyed that section, even though I ran out of water. You know, I carried 4 liters on me. It was hot and it was hard, but there was one point, probably about, I'm guessing, maybe 5 miles into the section where you've been through these big canyons up and down, and then you get onto this shoulder of the frontal mountain range of the Santa Ritas, and you can see right away across, and I could spot it. I could see a notch. I looked at my Gaia, and I could see where that notch was, and it must have been like 10 miles away, and I thought, that's where we're going. And once I was on that shoulder, I just thought to myself, I'm going to run as much of this as I possibly can, and then I'll hit the switchbacks, and then I'll head down to the aid station. And that's what I did. And in a weird way, because I was moving so efficiently, even though it was really hot, I was quite enjoying the section. And, you know, I broke it up once or twice. I think I had 3 packs of Vespa on me for that section. And I just remember thinking, right, you get halfway, you'll have another Vespa, and then save one for when you get to the top before the switchbacks. So, and that's something that I do as well mentally during the race, is that I think to myself, okay, you know, I'm going to start this section, and, you know, in 2 hours time, I've got a Vespa to look forward to, and I know that I'm going to take that. It's going to pick me up, and I'm going to crack on, and another 2 hours and I'll have another one.
Yeah, I know. It's that's the thing, though. I've had that kind of feedback from athletes over the years, like they can think through their strategies, they can do math, but, you know, whereas before it's like it's hard to get them to remember what the section was like, right?
Yeah. And what are your thoughts on the use of ketones alongside Vespa as well, Peter?
When I say we, it's a true collaboration with the athletes I've worked with. We've developed a ketone ester microdosing protocol.
Yeah.
And it works really well. And you're a good candidate for it, even though you're not yet down the OFM pathway. You're probably fat adapted enough. You have to be fat adapted. You have to be using the Vespa in order to get the real benefits of the ketones without risking it, because, you know, like the Tour de France riders, they only use it for recovery. Because with ketone esters, if you take too much at one time, it can signal to your liver to shut down. So your liver generates a lot of the energy substrates you need, and if you have elevated ketones, it's gonna tell your liver, we got too many ketones in circulation. No more ketones, no more glucose, no more glycogen, no more fatty acids. So your liver shuts down. So if you're fat adapted, though, it's a very different thing, because if you microdose it in, it's just like strategic carbs. It's that little extra bit you're trickling in, because your liver and your muscles and everything are releasing the other energy substrates, the free fatty acids, the glucose, and the ketones to meet that metabolic need. And then you just fuel it with extra carbs and ketones. And what we found with the ketones is that they don't make you go faster, but mentally you just can keep your head in the game even better. You just can keep that high pace, just sustain it even more. You just feel a little bit more in the game. You're not struggling as much. And so that's because the ketones you get from ketone esters, this is part of the unfortunate hype about it. The ketones you get from ketone esters are relatively minor compared to the ketones your liver puts out if you're fat adapted. So Vespa helps drive ketosis. OFM, the other components of OFM besides Vespa also drive ketosis and gluconeogenesis. Your liver makes lots of ketones. Abby, you work in medicine. A hallmark of late stage type 2 diabetes is runaway glucagon signaling, which means your liver is taking liver fat and making glucose out of it, and you never can get your blood sugar down. So when you're well fat adapted, your liver will make a significant amount of glucose and ketones to meet the metabolic need. So it's just like those ketone esters are just that little icing on the cake. And now I gave you, for the night, that last section where you really turned it up from Casablanca to the finish, I gave you a concoction of high dose vitamin D, vitamin K2, MK7, menaquinone, and of course the ubiquinol, which is a form of CoQ10. And so what happens is vitamin D is a very interesting thing. It's a precursor to melatonin, but it's antagonistic to melatonin. So if you take a super high dose of vitamin D at night, it disrupts your melatonin synthesis, and it doesn't make you as tired. It kind of wakes you up, and it's a much better option than trying to do lots of caffeine.
Interesting.
Right?
Very interesting.
I still recommend people use caffeine, but just not heaps of it. And that's what got Jeff into trouble last year at Cocodona. He was doing a ton of ketones, the ketone IQ, which is an alcohol that converts into a ketone ester. He was doing a ton of that with a ton of caffeine. And what people don't know, what he didn't know, is there's a drug interaction. The ketones magnify the effects of the caffeine. And so he got a toxic load of caffeine, to where it was enough to where, because caffeine is a known vasoconstrictor.
Right.
And so he got such a high load that it was cutting off his blood supply.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure he told you his blood saturation went down to 78. I mean, he was.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And that's what it was between the amount of ketones he was doing, the amount of caffeine he was doing, the dust and the pollen in the air. He had this cascade of vasoconstriction.
Yeah.
So giving you that high dose of vitamin D, and then the CoQ10, the ubiquinol, which is a good energy substrate. That just really kind of, and I think I might have gave you a glycine propanol L-carnitine too.
Whatever you gave me, it was amazing, Peter, because I felt fantastic in that last section.
Yeah.
And actually, having that consistent energy is so important in these super long efforts. And then any way that you can make your way through that mental fog by feeling sharper through ketones, vitamin D, I mean, it just gives you that extra edge for sure.
And this is the thing. Vespa is an amazing product. You guys know this. You've seen it. You've experienced it. And the more I work with athletes like you, the more convinced I am. But I don't try to sell it as one trick pony. It's an important tool, but there's all these other things we've kind of figured out in collaboration with athletes like Jeff that you can do to improve it in a way that is going to improve your performance and your health and minimize, downside things. Like, in race, you're going to do stuff that isn't ideal, like, take a bunch of carbs or whatever, but it's not, you kind of want to minimize how much damage you're doing. Right. And and then probably you probably notice the recovery. Like that's something you guys probably want both to talk about is like.
Yeah, well, straight after the race, we went and kind of sat at the finish line. The next day, we went and helped our friend Lucia at one of the aid stations. Then we ended up driving back to Phoenix, which is 3 hours. And then got the next day, went and met Lucia in Phoenix and some of our other friends for lunch, and then flew to the UK, drove to Wales, went to a wedding, saw our friends and family, and on the Tuesday morning, flew back and we're back in work. And I would say typically after a race, Scott can be quite grouchy because he's obviously sleep deprived, so he can be a bit short, for want of a better word.
Yeah, you're a bit foggy.
So he wasn't really like that after the race. Yes, he was tired, right? He definitely needed like a nap and stuff. But like you've been running, you've been in the gym.
Yeah, back running, back doing strength and conditioning for sure. And like I was saying earlier, I've finished 145-mile races in the past and barely been able to get up and down the stairs. That simply isn't the case now. I take Vespa, and I think you're way better placed than I to kind of comment on this. But I think the reason for that is that when you do these super long pushes, if you're reliant on carbs, and carbs is your energy source, and then you stop eating, what's next, right? You're going to use your muscles as a fuel source, which creates that stiffness post-race that you can't, you're really, really struggling to mobilize and move again. But taking Vespa means that I'm always using that fat as my first store of energy, right? And yes, I'm supplementing some carbs through the gels and some sugary treats here and there, but actually I never tick over into using those muscles, which could use, in the past has led to rhabdomyolysis for me. So, that's just simply not going to happen. Yeah. I had rhabdo in Death Valley in 2016, where I was doing a single push across there for charity and started getting cramp in my face. And Abby and my friend Chris were like, "You're fine. You're absolutely fine." And it turns out.
No, then you fainted. Then we let you rest, and then he carried on and was really moany and negative. And so me and Chris were like, "I don't know what's wrong with you. You're being so negative. Sort out your mindset. And it must have been about like mile 30, fainted.
Yeah.
Then mile 123, collapsed again. And then we're like, "Do you think we should maybe take him to the hospital?" And then we're making all these jokes like, "Imagine you've got kidney failure." And the doctor's like, "I wouldn't joke about it. He's got rhabdomyolysis." We were like, "Oh my God, we've nearly killed him."
Yeah, it was a bad situation, right? I've learned from that. And yeah, I don't want to repeat that anytime soon. Not least because
and that's the thing we're kind of looking at is you've got all these things going on. One of the big problems is actually that you can't avoid is, like you say, on the feet. You end up destroying a lot of cells in your feet that go to your kidneys. That's one of the big ones. But then when you get behind on your hydration and fluids and you run out of glucose, if you're glucose dependent, you start catabolizing muscle protein. Mm-hmm. It's just, it's a cascade effect and a spiral. And we have this, humans have this, human or animals in general, we have this huge reservoir of resilience. And this is why human health has been what I call dumbed down to the point it is now, because what is considered healthy, I think, is sick.
Yeah.
Normal healthy is not what I call healthy. You're what normal should be. Jeff Browning is the ideal.
Yeah.
You know, I tell people, if you want to know who's doing it completely right, it's Jeff Browning. You know, it's he's been able to parlay that into a full-time professional, so it's his day job, so he can do it right. But you know, you're like chasing a career and everything else, because the career pays the bills for this, but it makes it much more challenging time-wise, right? Time management-wise. But the other thing in terms of that, there's also this problem that one of the things about the Vespa, or just shifting your body to burning more fat, is the more you can use fat as your fuel via beta oxidation, which is the true fat burning state, the less damage you do. And it's like I tell people, the paradigm shift with using Vespa or getting fat adapted isn't that you actually recover faster, it's that you prevented the damage you need to recover from.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, you know, cell wall, fatty acid compositions. We're talking about mitochondria, all those things. The more you burn sugar, especially above a certain point, the more damage you're doing in terms of oxidative stress, lactate load. And then, of course, when you're doing a lot of carbs, you got this little phenomenon called glycation, which people don't know about. It's the acronym for it is AGE, for aging, because it's advanced glycated end products, but because it really does prematurely age you. And like right now you're seeing this hyper high carb taking up a lot of the media, like what the pros are doing. And you know, they just had Ironman Texas, and there was a guy who set a world record on the bike leg, and he did 200 grams an hour.
Oh my God.
Wow.
He must have been so bloated by the end.
He blew up on the run. He blew up.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like people were looking at the 90 to 140, 150 that young males were doing and saying, wow, where can we go from this? And now that somebody's hit 200, they're like, well, what else can we do to push it even higher? And I'm like, this isn't going to end well. No. Right.
Well, you've got the secret sauce, Peter, and it is my secret sauce when it comes to ultra running, for sure.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, our point of view, and this is where Jeff was in 2015. I mean, when he came to me in December via Zach Bitter, he was considering giving up professional ultra running. You know, he was just going to go.
It's crazy when you see how he's performing now, right? Like,
yeah. And to a point, he and Peter Mortimer, they're both elite runners, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at when you go to Ultra Sign Up and look at the frequency of things they're doing, it's like 3 to 5 times more than any of the other elites.
Yeah.
Like in 2021 to 2022, Jeff's Hard Rock, where he placed 5th both times.
Yeah.
Now it's not all of it's on his Ultra Sign Up, but I knew what he was doing. But that year he was doing something big every 6 to 7 weeks.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking 100 milers, FKTs. It was a big weekend every 6 to 7 weeks.
Yeah. And you can only do that if you're fueling right and recovering right.
Jen deserves a medal. That's why I say.
Yeah. And just like you, Scott, he's got the support of his wife, Jen.
Yeah. We know Jen very well. She's great, and she's been really helpful, giving us tips as well.
Yeah. So, you know, that's kind of where we all are with this. So, yeah, I mean, any questions you have, any insights, you know, we can do the quiz on you. Do you know how much sugar? I'll show you. We'll do a.
You got a quiz?
Okay, we love a quiz. Let's be
competitive.
competitive.
We'll do a quiz here for you and the audience.
I mean, just while you're pulling that quiz up, Peter, I mean, you know, even after the race, the Monster, I've had lots of ultra runners reaching out to me on Instagram, just asking me, you know, what do they do at the race? What are the tips that I could offer? You know, would I do it again, kind of thing? And I've sent a lot of people in the direction of Vespa because I truly believe in the product. And if you look at my results since I started taking it, I've got better and better and progressing every year. And I'm excited because, as you say, I'm still at the start of this OFM journey, and I'm excited to see where it goes next.
Yeah. Let me pull up a couple of pictures here. Because this is important for you, and this will help push y'all, both of you, to do more of the OFM and really, and this is really about you guys as individuals. Not,
I'm keen for us both to do the OFM because I need a metabolism kickstart, especially since I've moved to the States. I need to shed a few pounds since I've moved. So yeah, we've talked about doing OFM to kickstart my metabolism and improve Scott's results.
Yeah. Well, no, it'd be nice for Abby to come and, I know you don't do this that much, but it'd be great for her to get that little bit fitter so she can come and pace me on some of the big sections in these races. That would be really nice. I think that's the next thing for the crew.
The last time I did that, you thought I was a witch. So
the last time she did that, Peter, was actually, we've got a TV on in the background with Cocodona going non-stop.
Yeah, I did 8 miles at Cocodona.
Abby took me on a sojourn into a cactus field between, what's the name, Jerome and that little Deadwood. I think Deadwood.
You were on the navigation. I was just there to keep you
trying to avoid
forward.
Stepping on cactus. So that's the kind of love that I get from the crew chief.
Well, sometimes you got to get a little pain, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got obviously Cocodona's going on right now, so you've got some runners out there in the desert, I would imagine.
We've got a lot of runners out there in the desert. It's we've got Jesse Haynes, Mark LaFierre,
Andrea Moore,
and Andrea Moore, who's doing a Monster Dona, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting, right?
It's really exciting. I'm sure if anyone wants to check out their results, I'm sure they'll all do exceptionally.
Oh, and Coke, all these races are epic. Some people like to trash Candice, but I think she's doing a great thing for the sport.
We do.
She's the one that's pushed out the envelope, right?
Yeah.
Pushed the boundaries and created life-changing adventures, Peter, and I completely agree. And actually, some of the podcasts that I've been on recently have made a point of saying that because it's been life-changing for me doing these races for sure.
I think
Jamil's his own genius, right?
Yeah.
But this Cocodona wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Candice starting this whole craziness of how far can we go and making it work. Because when she first started doing this, it's I understand the logistics, having been involved with Western states.
Yeah.
I understand the logistics involved with putting on these long events, and it's how you make them work, I don't know.
And she started it 10 years ago, so I'd imagine logistics, satellite coverage, all that was definitely nowhere near what it is today. So I think it's cool. As a woman, it's cool to see a woman kind of pushing the boundaries out there. It's normally men that normally push the boundaries, but I think it's nice that she's kind of came up with this concept, pushed it, and now you're seeing more women come into ultra running as well, which is very cool.
Absolutely. She's a pioneer and role model for ladies in ultra running, right? She set the standards of what good can look like.
But I think...
No. And that's the thing is I heard some comments, this costs a couple $1,000, and they should have this at the aid station, blah, 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 blah. It's it's real easy to pick away, stand on the sidelines and pick away. But she's out there doing it, and it's you go, Candice.
I would say even just from a crew perspective,
and her team, because nobody does these
it's a whole
alone.
team behind,
Right. Because the sport wouldn't exist without volunteers.
No. But I would say even from a crew perspective, going to all the aid stations, I've obviously done quite a few races, but I would say the coordinates this time took you exactly to where the aid station was. It sounds like such a small thing, but you don't always get that, and it's quite stressful because you're sometimes you might have came up against time and try to get there, and then if you can't find it, and cell service isn't good. So from a crew perspective, I think she did an awesome job. I think it was probably one of her strongest. From a crew perspective, the manual, the size of the areas that you could park the car. What I loved is the Portaloos didn't stink. I don't know what they've done or who their new Portaloo supplier is, but it definitely didn't stink, and I've got a bad gag reflex. So yeah, it was good from that perspective, which is a very different to the runners.
I look at the cost. I look at the cost for what they're putting on and the logistics. It's like, I wouldn't want to try to do it for a couple $1,000s a person, because you know, you only have, how many people were in the race?
300, I think.
Yeah.
300. Well, I mean, that looks like on paper, that looks like a lot of money, but man, you think about.
Yeah, like, I mean, you know, to get to the top of a 9,000-foot mountain, Peter, which I've climbed all night, and then to be greeted by amazing volunteers in an aid station going, "Hey, good morning, what do you want? Do you want a cup of coffee? Do you want a cheese toastie?" I mean, that to me is being spoiled. Like, you know, I think that's absolutely outstanding to have that kind of level of service at an aid station.
That aid station was the hardest one to find, because my GPS took me right there, and I was looking down, looking for the aid station. It's like, where is it? And I started looking around. Then fortunately, Peter's partner, Siska, said, no, it's there. You just have to keep going. It doesn't look.
Yeah, it's got the little veer off down the side. It looks like a dead end. I know where you're at.
To be fair, I think I was probably looking for that aid station longer than any of you were.
You climbed it at night in the snowstorm, right?
I did. Yeah. It was like being back in the UK for me. I was happy with that.
Well, yeah, you were fine with it, but then all of a sudden you had a 40-degree temperature swing the next day.
Yeah, which is crazy.
And that's the thing. Like, actually, people, you know, we're watching Cocodona now at the moment, and you know, the weather there it's cloudy and a little bit of rain, a little bit of snow, and I'm like, damn it, I wish I was running this year, because you know, that's the perfect conditions for me. But actually, like, flipping that around, it's very difficult when you come from a country which, you know, is used to running in perpetual rain, basically, is ultra running in the UK, to come and like compete somewhere like Arizona is really difficult. And flip reverse, right? You're from Arizona, go and run in the rain, it's not so much fun. So yeah, I think, you know, when you've got the edge of getting everything right through your nutrition, your hydration, when you've got products that you can trust and believe in, it just takes one less stressor away when you come to compete in those environments, for sure.
Yeah. So quiz time, kids.
Okay.
Quiz time. Let's do it.
We're ready.
Okay.
What's the prize?
So we're going to start. We want to start. This is for our audience as much as you. Okay. We want to start with something we can all agree upon. Okay, because you know the way modern cultural stuff has become, nobody talks to anybody, right? Okay. You have these tribes. You have Republicans and Democrats, and
never heard of them.
You know, and I don't know who you have in the UK. You got the Tories and whoever else, you know, and everybody's gotten into these tribes, and ultra running has become very tribal. I don't know if you've noticed that.
A little bit.
And so let's start with something we can all agree upon, and nobody's going to debate, and that is too much. Everybody knows too much sugar is not a good thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, Nabby, you work in medicine, you work in orthopedics, but you're working with medical pathways. So we all agree too much sugar is not a good thing.
100%.
So, okay, so can any of you guys guess how much sugar you consume in the 6 months leading up to a 100-mile ultra or an Ironman? And we're talking not what the pros do, but what the standard recommended sports science backed nutrition requirements, what they tell you to do. Can you think about how much sugar that might be?
What are we talking in grams here? Kilos of sugar? Probably
kilos, pounds. Let's do. Yeah.
90 kilos.
No.
I have no idea. Measurement's not my strength.
I'm gonna go for 10 kilos of sugar here.
Okay.
Do we know what that is in pounds?
Abby, what?
I said 90, but Scott's making me think that seems ridiculous. I have no idea about weight.
I might be wrong.
So you're saying, Scott, you're saying 10 kilos?
Yeah, 10 kilos.
And I'm saying 90 kilos.
Okay.
And now we've got to do the conversion.
Okay. Well, we're going to open up screen share here.
Just two.
And yeah, here we are. This is how much it is.
It's just loading. What's it? What is it? 150.
150 pounds of sugar. Wow.
That's 68 kilos.
See, I wasn't that far off, actually. I was closer than you.
That's like wow, look at all that sugar.
Yeah. That's how much sugar people are taking in. And it's just simple math. Let me pull that up so that people so people know I'm not lying about it, right?
Yeah.
What's question number 2 of this quiz, Peter? I'm very excited.
Well,
Yeah,
actually,
well,
listen to me.
Well, we don't know what the prize is yet.
Well, I was closer on that one.
Okay.
well, and this is the point. Is it's just simple math. If you calculate out what they tell you, you have 26 weeks of training, and you're averaging 12 hours per week, with an average of 200 extra calories per hour from your diet or your fueling. Okay, that's 62,400 calories. And then you've got 182 days of an average dietary intake, your base intake of 2,000 calories, right?
Yeah.
At 60% carbohydrate, which is what they recommend, right? That's the basic, right?
Yeah.
So 60% of your calories are coming from carbohydrates. So it's 182 days times 2,000 times 0.6, 218,400 calories. Total is 280,800 calories. Divide by 4 calories per gram. That's 70,200 grams. Well, that's 70 kilos.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's what the standard sports science, because your body, you know this, Abby, from your work. Your body looked at all those concentrated forms of carbohydrates as sugar, right? Glucose, it's all glucose. So it's not me saying this. It's just it's a basic physiological fact nobody even argues over, but somehow we've lost our way because we're so focused on how much the pros are doing to win, because sugar does work to make you do it. And so our thing is like, with OFM, and of course Vespa's including that, it's like we're not saying go low carb, no carb, keto, blah blah blah. It's like, what if you can take a third out? Well, that's 50 pounds of sugar you just dumped.
Yeah.
Or if you can take a half out, that's 75 pounds. I mean, you still have 100 or 75 pounds of sugar left to use. That's not keto or low carb by any means. You got plenty of carbs, right?
Yeah.
Like, you've probably been able to take a third out. Jeff probably has taken a half out. Peter Mortimer, who's a really hyper adopter, he's probably taken out 2/3 of the sugar that he used to have to consume to get through. And so there's still plenty of carbs to use strategically. And that's the whole key with that climate. And then, and so this is just, basic stuff people need to understand, because I know a lot of people are very hesitant about keto, and unfortunately OFM gets lumped into that keto crowd because there's no point of reference for what we're doing. It's so unique.
Yeah.
And it's unique. And then the other thing that makes it unique is we really try to individualize it. That's why Jeff coaches you the way he does. It's like, you got to get it individualized. That last mile of variables is what makes everybody. And then even then, like, as you go on your journey, both you and Abby, that'll change. Like, what works for you today
might not
be different as you move along.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
As variables, and so
it's almost this process of marginal gains in a way, Peter, isn't it? You're making these little tweaks, whether it's to the OFM piece, whether it's to the sleep, whether it's to the hydration, and you make those marginal gains, and then all of a sudden you've got a big gain.
And here's the thing, like, and you can see this in Peter and Jeff, and certainly even in your experiences, you look back, once you tweak one thing, that changes everything else. So everything else recalibrates everything else. So it's a constantly evolving dynamic. And as you get fitter, you're able to do more. You need less of this. You know when you need more. It's kind of a very interesting thing, and that's where people really start to take on that, what I think is agency about what they're doing. And I think you guys are already on that thing, because you're already on that path, because you've uprooted yourselves from living in the UK saying, hey, we want to come and live in the US because we want to do more of this. We're enjoying this.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we get to see a lot of really cool places, because the races go through places you wouldn't typically go on holiday or see if you're a tourist going on your standard holiday trip to the US. So we always try and do a couple of things. Like before the race, we always try and build in a couple of days where we can see somewhere, feel like a little bit of a holiday. Then Scott will do the race, and then we do the same at the end. So it feels like we've had Scott's race, but we've also had a bit of chill time and kind of holiday time around it. And I think that's important. I think if we just went into the race, finished the race, then like left, I think that would be harder, because it doesn't give you that ability to reset or kind of just mentally get a break from work before going into the races, which are mentally tiring for crew and runner, right? So I think that's something that we've always done. And I think it kind of affords us more time to do that, because we don't have a long haul flight that's going to take 2 days to get to the start of the race. So like even the pre-planning has helped massively through moving. Like we'd have to do it all in the hotel room, so that's a whole day lost, and we'd have to go out the day before the race to buy additional supplies that we can't get in the UK. Whereas now Scott can get it all ordered here to the house. He can make up everything before we go, and then we have the extra days at the start of the race, like before the start of the race, where we can actually go and explore. You know, we could go hiking. Scott might do like a shakeout run, and I might go rock climbing. Like, I think it just affords us a little bit more flexibility as well, which is good.
Well, and that's the important thing, because, you know, like Jeff experienced during when he ran his first ultra on Vespa and OFM, that was a Hurt 100.
Yeah.
He was taking pictures and sending them back to his wife, because he wasn't all swollen up. He wasn't walking backwards down the stairs.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, you can go out and do things after a race. Like you guys were able to chill and do stuff. You know, Peter Mortimer, he was at work in the OR setting up and assisting less than 24 hours after finishing.
Yeah, which is crazy.
I mean, that's amazing. And just thinking back now, actually, as well, Peter, you're like this. So I did the Divide 200 in Canada in September last year, which is a very difficult race. It's the hardest race I've done, actually, I believe. It's 47,000 feet of elevation gain up and down, but it's all in the Canadian Rockies. It's tough. And afterwards, like, I think it was 2 or 3 days later, we went and climbed the Via Ferrata in Banff. So like I was that well recovered after a 200-mile race that I could go and climb a Via Ferrata with Abby. So we got back to having a holiday then afterwards, which is crazy.
Well, yeah, and those Canadian Rockies and that place where that race is done is like, that's absolutely gorgeous country. And you wouldn't see that on a normal holiday, right?
Yeah.
No.
Well, it did rain the whole time, so it wasn't my favourite race to crew because of that. I couldn't see many of the views that Scott got.
It hits different, Peter, when you're up in those mountains at night and you can hear packs of wolves howling nearby. It's different to the Arizona desert, for sure.
Well, yeah, I spend my time in the Sierra Nevadas, and the backcountry of the Sierras is just epic. It's epic, and of course, I'm the guy who chases the bears, so I don't worry about the wolves and the bears, because we don't have grizzlies here. If I had grizzlies to contend with, that would be a different deal. And I don't worry about the cougars. We have a really bad cat problem here now because of overpopulation, but I'm like, bring it on. but then I'm also a big guy and hairy, and so
this is you saying that you could take a cougar in a fist fight, Peter, is it?
I would sure as hell try.
Okay.
But
make this happen.
The thing is I would do all my best to avoid getting to that situation, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a sensible approach. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's why I'm not really worried about them, because here in California, there's way too many of them. So I'm sure I've been in country where the cougars are watching me, and I have no idea that they're even there.
For sure. Yeah.
But by being situationally aware and chasing the bears, because we have black bears in there, I chase them all the time because I want them to be scared of humans.
Yeah.
I think that goes a long ways to making cougars aware that you're not prey, you're a predator, you're not prey. Because it's like I tell my vegetarian vegan friends, I've got my eyes in the front of my head, I've got canine teeth, and I only have one stomach. And when you look at how animal species are, all your predators have their eyes oriented towards the front for stalking, and prey has it towards the side for peripheral vision, so they can look out for predators.
Yeah.
Right. And so you just try to make sure you're not acting like prey.
Good advice.
You should take that time the bees
Next
and
time
the wasps
I'm trying to
come
wrestle
near
a
you.
grizzly bear,
When the wasps come near Scott, he literally acts like prey and runs
the
away.
grizzly bear, the grizzly bear thing I'm not so sure about. So I've got a healthy respect for that. I'm just not sure how I would deal with it other than carrying a 45.
Yeah, at least
Good
you
advice.
can stand away.
Good
at
advice. Now
distance.
we're living over here. I think that's good advice.
We don't have grizzlies.
Yeah. So what's next for you, Scott?
Well, the next race I've actually got confirmed is the 100-mile Kodiak race in California in October, and now I'm going to see. So I'm very bad, Peter, at like stopping to reflect and enjoy the race, and I've been doing that, intentionally doing that the last couple of weeks, because it's taken so long to like crack that top 10 and make it into the top 10 at a major international race, that I wanted to enjoy it a little bit and not let that moment pass. But now I'm kind of getting ready again and thinking, right, what do I want to do next?
Let's talk about that. I mean, you finished 9th overall at the Arizona Monster.
Finally.
I mean, you're not, and I'm not saying this in any derogatory way. You're just a regular bloke who's got a day job and a demanding day job, and you're not built like a runner per se, right? You come from a training background, and you were able to not just sneak into the top 10, but really come into it.
Thank you. That's really kind of you to say. And
So tell us about that. What are your thoughts on soaking all that up?
Well, that's really kind of you to say. And you know what? It's as much for Abby and the crew and my friends and family as it is for me, right? It's something that I've always wanted to do is make people proud, I suppose. And I've been doing these crazy events and always kind of being like 14th or 15th, that kind of vibe. And I've learned a lot over the years as well, and to finally do it in a big race is something special, and so many people to thank, like Vespa for the support, Abby for being my long-suffering crew chief, my
Telling
friends,
you that
my
you
family,
could push harder.
Everyone has given me all the support and love, right? And it's just really nice to finally do it. It's really nice. But now it's kind of got me thinking, it's like, well, there's not that much difference between
You can't do one and done. You've got to back it up now, don't you?
Yeah,
Multiples.
yeah. But like, it's not that much difference between ninth.
Well, it also shows how having that support and doing the planning and doing the training, getting a great coach, and having all those different support mechanisms really came together for you, because that's the thing about these now the 200s. Before it was the 100s. Back when I first started, it hadn't quite gotten to be an elite thing until about 2000. I ran Western States, my first 100, in 2006, and it was just starting to be something. But prior to that, it was a bunch of guys and gals who were in the sport, and they were figuring it out, right? And then all of a sudden, after 2000 and in the mid 2000s, all of a sudden you got all these people in it who are really fast and competitive, and it's changed. But these, when you're out there on the fringe figuring it out, it's kind of an interesting
Yeah. And now I'm really interested, because I'm like, right, okay, like if I can get to ninth and I don't think I've maximized my potential yet. I think I've still got a lot to learn and a lot to do. Like, we just talked about it a minute ago. Like, I can make tweaks to my diet through OFM that could maybe give me another 1% increase in performance. And then it's like, okay, where else can I get those marginal gains to get me to maybe from ninth to, top 5 or top 3? And I just want to keep pushing and see how far I can go with it, I guess. Summit 200 maybe in Colorado in July. I want to do a soft rock. I definitely want to run Cocodona for the second time next year. And I want to go back to Moab next year as well. So I think, I'll be working long term towards those 2 big races next year for sure.
Okay. Well, anything we can do to help make that happen and support it, we're there for you. And
thank you, Peter. That means a lot.
No, we appreciate you guys' support, and hopefully we'll get some people in the UK to see what we're doing, and
100%.
well, with your audience here, and we appreciate you being such a vocal ambassador for us.
Thank you. And thank you for being such a wonderful sponsor and producing what is an amazing product that has transformed my running as well. So anything I can support.
Well, the big thing, like I said, the big thing that I'm happy is not only to transform your running, but your health. Because like I said, looking at that amount of sugar that people are consuming, I tell people it's not a question of if you're going to have a problem, it's when and what form.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate reality is this is considered normal in endurance sports, like what you see happen. And I've been in the sport since the early 2000s, and I've seen so many elite runners come on the scene. They're unbeatable for 2, 3, 4 seasons, and then all of a sudden they drop off.
Yeah,
and
100%.
And it's like, it's completely preventable. And Jeff's a perfect example of somebody who was on that track and, pulled out of that nosedive, and now he's
consistently getting course records, right?
Yeah.
He's winning course records. How many has he got in the last year? Probably like 5.
Yeah. And he's got the FKT for a double crossing of the Grand Canyon, and of course, like I say, it's his day job. You could probably be doing a whole lot better if you took your day job off and had
definitely cannot take the day job off. Let's not give them ideas.
Let Abby be the sugar mama.
That's the only sugar I'm consuming here.
I'll have to get promoted to owning Johnson & Johnson if we take the day off.
Yeah. Well, you could always be a sugar mama and have Tina get you a job in the UAE, right?
My math skills, as we've seen, are not that good. I'm not sure she'd hire me.
Yeah. Well, I'm working in the UAE now with some people, and
fantastic.
They're kind of telling me what the situation is, and it's like, Tina's there because they're paying her a whole lot of money to be there.
Yeah. Tax free, right? That's the benefit of UAE.
Yeah. I mean, but they got because to live there is expensive too.
Yeah, it's we went there on holiday and it's crazy expensive. Yeah.
So no, it's like, unless you're somebody like in Jeff's situation, you got a lot of things to deal with. And
I still think he could train harder. He's got the mornings before he wakes up, and then he's got the nighttime, and then he's got the weekend.
It's still there. There's still room to improve, I think, for sure.
Well, and I hope he's keeping his wife happy.
Yeah. Yes, don't worry.
I mean, besides
Friday, took me out for dinner. We were all good. Got me
besides being a constant source of entertainment.
He does give me good stories for work.
Yeah.
and thank you, Peter, as well. I had the chance to thank you for coming to kind of ad hoc join the crew as well at the Monster. It was so nice to see you at every aid station. It really meant a lot to me, because I didn't have any paces either as well during the race until the last 16 miles, which was intentional because I wanted to know what the gap was back to the competition. And
because Tina helped.
Yeah, and Tina was brilliant. And as was Jake, as were you, as was Peter. And I just wanted to say thank you.
And Tina, it was serendipitous of Tina, because she was going to run the race.
Yeah.
And then she ended up getting sick and couldn't run.
Yeah, exactly. So
I felt for her. I really felt for her. trained so hard.
It was special
Yeah.
to those last 16 miles were for sure. You know,
Yeah. So is she going to do it next year?
I haven't
Don't
spoken
know.
to her about
I
it. Maybe
think maybe it's next year. Not maybe she signed up for the Triple Crown.
she might do the Triple Crown and the Monster.
think
Who
she-
knows?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think she's got Triple Crown. That's our goal. I think for next year because she was meant to do it last year
I think, yeah.
and something happened and she couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Well, we've got Andrea Moore is doing Monster Donut.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. It's amazing. And she's
Yeah.
out there now crushing it right now.
Right. And the thing is she's normally a back of the packer, you know, because she's just a big old Texan gal. She just takes her time and motors through. I mean, we've got people from the front of the pack to the back. And her finish at Monster 300 was phenomenal because she finished 49th overall out of 199 finishers.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
which is so
She
so
crushed it.
She crushed it. And
All your
she's
athletes
a
did
lovely
well.
lady.
Yeah, they did.
Lovely lady. And yeah, all your athletes do well. And I think that shows the benefit of Vespa, right the way through the field. You got people achieving awesome.
Yeah. And you know, people need to experience that. I was on a call this morning to Europe with some people and we're trying to figure out how to get into that, open that market up some more. But it's like, it takes people like you who are succeeding and then have some relationship collateral with people, because it's what we're doing. Y'all are familiar with the term disruptive innovation.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That's used commonly in tech, but Vespa is so disruptive. It's disruptive in a field sphere that doesn't even use the term. That's how disruptive.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's hard for people to even wrap their heads around it. And you probably have mentioned it to people and they just kind of like, really?
I mention it to a lot of people when I'm at the aid
I
stations.
mention it to people all the time as well. Every podcast I go on, I mention it because I'm passionate about it. I've seen what it can do for me, and I want other people to.
Yeah, because it really does help people.
Yeah,
just 100%.
Yeah, and I mean, what do they say? Like in ultra endurance sports, more than 50% of the field experiences some sort of GI issue.
Yeah,
and 21 to 27% usually have something serious enough to throw their race.
Yeah.
I mean, it's big.
it is. It's huge.
And you know what? This is something we haven't really touched on. I know we're getting towards the end, but this is something that I was kind of astonished about for the 300 mile. I was only sick once during the race, the whole 300 miles. And the reason for that was that I grabbed a gel in the heat of the day and it had been in the side of my pack and it was really hot. And I squeezed it, but as I squeezed it right from the bottom. So it went boom, all of it at once, because it wasn't like nausea, sickness. It was just a response. I was already back on the Vespa and back sipping water and I was fine. So, you know, that's testimony to how good the fueling strategy now is. Because
and you know, in the heat, as long as you can stay on top of your hydration,
yeah,
it's a secret weapon.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And sodium is such an important part of that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you can keep hydrated, if you can keep your hydration on point, you can get by on so little calories in the heat. It's funny. It's not funny.
Especially when you've got Vespa in your back pocket. The secret sauce, mate. The secret sauce.
Yeah, we've got it. So, all right. Well, Scott, Abby, thank you very much. And Abby, thank you so much for adding your perspective for all you Sherpas and crew members out there and wives who are wives or husbands that want the best for your athlete. Here's somebody with a different perspective who's witnessed it. And, you know, like I said, the sport wouldn't exist without the volunteers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
And
I agree.
I wouldn't have achieved anything I've done without the support of my wonderful crew chief as well. She's crewed me at all the big races around the world, so I'm very lucky to have
Yeah,
that.
and she's easy on the eyes too. There's some of my toxic masculinity coming out again.
I'll pay you later.
Where do you live? I'll send her over.
No. You don't have to do that. I'm not.
Yeah, he's taking that back now.
No, you are easy on the eyes. I notice these things, but I don't go there. Yep. Yeah, not with a mate like you, Scott. There's a reason she married you, and that's not for me to understand. But
yeah, I still don't understand it, to be honest.
yeah, we're
It's
not
like a boomerang; he just keeps coming back.
Yeah, exactly. That life insurance policy hasn't paid off yet.
Well, you guys have a great week. Keep soaking up this amazing 9th place finish. You know, you came out of nowhere and crushed it.
Thank you.
And get ready for some more great adventures. And let's get you guys out here to do some. You know, if you want to come out and train, I got places where you'll suffer.
Yes, sir. That
Perfect.
sounds good. Thank you so much, Peter. Thanks for all the support.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you. Have a nice night.